be giving at the same conversation I'm going to be starting at the Outliers Mastermind. Head to seanfinter.com if you want to get tickets. I think there are still a few left, but that's October 27th through 29th in Annapolis, Maryland. And so, along with a couple other people, we'll be talking about some specific topics to create an unfair advantage for your bar or restaurant. All right, so before I get started, I wanted you to think about something. 60% of restaurants fail in their first year, and 80% don't make it past 5. Now, I don't say that to scare you. Well, maybe a little bit, but more importantly, I say it to wake you up. These aren't just statistics. They're real people, real businesses, real communities, real dreams, real staff members, and they didn't make it. They're not going to make it. And I'm here to tell you why. So most of us think that if we have great food, great service, and great atmosphere, that should be enough. I used to think so too. When I owned a bar, I used to think that was plenty. But here's the reality. That's not nearly enough anymore. The restaurants that survive, the ones that thrive, they're doing something considerably differently. They're not relying on hope or crossing their fingers and just waiting for guests to come back. They're using systems, structured strategic systems that ensure that they build loyalty, get real feedback, and protect their reputation. I'm not here to tell you to sell you some magic bullet or talk about the next trend in food. Today, we're going to have a real conversation about what it takes to keep your business alive, and not just alive, but thriving. And it all starts with 3 key systems: loyalty, feedback, and reputation management. These aren't corporate ideas or gimmicks. Well, they are probably corporate ideas. I mean, they have a lot more money in their war chest to develop programs that work because they have a lot more committed to it. They have shareholders and stuff like that. So in the next couple of minutes, I'm going to break down each of these 3 systems, and we'll talk about why they're important, how they work, and how you can use them to protect your restaurant from becoming another statistic. By the end of this, some of you are going to feel a little bit mad that you didn't know this sooner. Some of you might be a little bit scared, and that would be scared of what could be happening in your restaurant right now that you're just not aware of. And some of you are going to be a little bit ambitious, ready to take action and make real lasting change. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the 3 systems that separate the survivors from the rest. Let's start with loyalty. We all want our guests to come back, right? There's much more profitability in having guests come back than in acquiring new customers. So we hope that they love the food, we hope that they love the service, and we hope that they love the vibe enough to return. But here's the truth. Hope is not a strategy. Loyalty doesn't just happen by accident. It's engineered, built intentionally. And if you don't have a system in place to create that loyalty, you're leaving your business to chance. So let's dive into why loyalty works. One of the strongest drivers of human behavior is reciprocity. The idea that when somebody does something for you, you feel compelled to do something in return. It's hardwired into us. So when you show your guests that you value them, that you see them, that you feel they feel an obligation to reciprocate. But here's the problem. Most restaurants don't have a system to trigger this feeling consistently. Now, I'm going to talk about corporations because, again, they have huge war chests and they have huge data departments and they know what works and what doesn't work because otherwise, why would they commit millions of dollars in advertising? So let's talk about Applebee's Neighborhood Rewards program. This isn't about just throwing discounts at people. It's about personalizing the experience. Applebee's doesn't just send out generic offers. They use data to understand what their guests like and create personalized experiences. They make people feel valued. And here's the kicker. Guests come back not because of the discount, but because they feel like Applebee's knows them and they feel a connection. Now, think about your restaurant. Are you doing anything to systematically create that feeling of reciprocity? Or are you just hoping your guests will remember the good time that they had last time and come back? Maybe they'll just happen to remember. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work like that. They're probably going to go to the next place that they're invited to, or a place they're going to look on Google Maps and find out where they should go. So now you might be thinking, that's Applebee's. They've got the resources to do that. I'm just a small independent restaurant. But let me tell you something very, very important. Loyalty systems aren't just for big chains. You can create a loyalty system that feels personal, intimate, and uniquely yours. Your voice, your cadence, your style. You don't need millions of dollars or a team of data scientists. You just need a process, something that shows your guests that you appreciate them, that you know them, and that you're thinking about them. So here's the thing. Many restaurant owners believe their guests are loyal because they see familiar faces, people who come in every week or every month. But let me ask you, Do you really know why they're coming back? Are they really loyal, or are they just coming back when it's convenient? Without a system in place, you don't have real loyalty. You have an illusion of loyalty. So let's break it down even further. There's a psychological concept called commitment bias. Well, once people have invested time, energy, or money into something, they feel like they're more likely to continue that behavior. A well-designed loyalty system taps into this bias. When a guest feels like they've become a regular, when they've invested in your brand, emotionally or financially, they're much more likely to keep coming back. And but you have to give them that nudge. Applebee's, again, serves as a great example of this. Their rewards program isn't just about discounts. It's about giving people a reason to commit. Once someone feels like they've earned something by coming back again and again and again, that commitment deepens. It's not about the points, it's about reinforcing the data that they belong. This is why I fly Delta, by the way, is because I have the credit card, I commit the $500 a year to the program, and I basically only fly Delta. And in return, they give me a free flight every month, and they kiss my ass every once in a while and bump me up to first class. So I love that. That's why I keep coming back, and they have my money. So let me say this again, because this is critical. Loyalty isn't something that just happens. It's built. It's engineered. Without a system to create and reinforce loyalty, you're leaving your business vulnerable to the next restaurant down the street. Loyalty systems aren't just about discounts. They're about creating connections, making people feel valued, and giving them a reason to come back. So without a loyalty system, you're constantly relying on chance. Maybe your guests will come back, maybe they won't. But if you put a system in place, you take control of that relationship. You build something lasting, and here's the truth. And if you don't have a loyalty system, somebody else does. And when your guests feel valued by somebody else, where do you think they're going to go? They're going to go where they feel more appreciated, right? So loyalty systems aren't just for chains. They're for any restaurant that wants to take control of its future. Loyalty is about more than points or discounts. It's about building relationships. And relationships are what keep people coming back. If you can create systems that make your guests feel seen, appreciated, and valued, you're not just creating customers, you're creating advocates and people that want to see you win. And that's how you build a business that lasts. Now, loyalty is just the beginning. Loyalty gets them in the door, but to keep improving, to keep growing, you need to know what's really happening in your restaurant. That's where feedback comes in. Feedback is your mirror. It shows you the reality of what's going on, and more importantly, what's going wrong. And if you don't have feedback systems in place, you're operating completely in the dark. So let's talk about how to shine a light on your business with feedback systems that work. So let's be real. Feedback can be uncomfortable. There's one thing about feedback, here's the thing, is that without feedback, you're running blind. You might think that everything is going well because no one is outright complaining to you. But let me ask you this. How often are your guests telling you the whole truth? How often are your staff telling you the whole truth? If you don't have a feedback system in place, you're only seeing part of the picture, and that's extremely, extremely dangerous. Think of feedback like it's a mirror. A mirror doesn't lie. It reflects exactly what's happening, whether you like it or not. In your restaurant, feedback is the only way to get a clear view of what's really going on, what's working, what's failing. Without a feedback system, you're operating on assumptions, and assumptions lead to blind spots. Feedback eliminates those blind spots. So let's talk about social proof. One of the most powerful forces in behavioral economics, Robert Cialdini, the father of influence psychology, explained that people are deeply influenced by the actions and opinions of others. According to Gallup, 93% of consumers base their dining decisions on online reviews. That means that every piece of feedback, whether it's online or private, affects the future of your business. But here's the thing. If you're not proactively seeking feedback, you're letting others shape your reputation for you. And again, let's talk about the corporates, because they're the ones who have, let's draft the corporates. They've already learned all these lessons, and that's why they spend millions of dollars on marketing, because they know it works. So let me show you an additional strategy that most restaurants overlook. It's a secret shopper system, but not the kind of thing, oops, I skipped the whole paragraph. So take Chili's, for example. They use the Net Promoter Score, which asks one simple question. How likely are you to recommend us to a friend? That's simple, one question. You've probably seen this a million other places. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You're going to see it everywhere. Fortune 100 companies all use it. How likely would you be to recommend us to a friend or family member? And so it's a deceptively basic question, but the data behind it is extremely powerful. It tells them whether their guests are leaving happy or frustrated. If the score is high, they know they're doing something right. If the score is low, they have a clear indication that something's wrong, and they can fix it before it becomes a bigger issue. Now, let me share an additional strategy that most restaurants overlook, and that's called a secret shopper program or a mystery shopper program, but not the kind where you hire an expensive agency. No, this system leverages your most loyal VIP guests, the people that love you and want to see you win, and then ask them for honest feedback. These are the people who already love your restaurant and care about its success. By asking them to give you unfiltered, honest feedback on their dining experience, you get a fresh perspective without breaking the bank. So here's why this works. Loyalty guests know your brand intimately. They'll tell you where you're slipping up, where service is inconsistent, and even where you're excelling. They'll act with reinforcement. This isn't about, pooping on people because they're doing a bad job. And because they already love your restaurant with a level of care and loyalty that a paid agency never could. So with that system, you're constantly guessing. Maybe your food is great, but the service is slow. Maybe the atmosphere is fantastic, but the wait times are driving away your repeat customers. Without feedback, these issues stay hidden. Oops, something happened. Without feedback, these issues. Okay. Without feedback system, you're constantly guessing. Maybe your food is great, but the service is slow. Maybe the atmosphere is fantastic, but the wait times are driving away your repeat customers. Without feedback, these issues stay hidden, waiting to blow up as bad online views or lost revenue. They're pretty much the same thing. Like your bad reviews equal lost revenue. And so here's one thing to be clear, and let's be clear, of bad reviews, the only way to get past that is to bury that with good reviews, and still your average is going to suffer. It's a very high stakes game. So, but here's the part that most restaurant owners overlook. Feedback isn't just about your guests. Your staff holds the key to more than half of the experience. How often are you getting feedback from your team? Do they feel supported? Do they have what they need to do their jobs well? Gallup's research shows that highly engaged employees can boost profitability by 21%. Profitability, not revenue, profitability, where disengaged employees can quietly sink your business without you even realizing it. So if you're not asking your staff for feedback, you're missing half the story. Gallup uses something called the Q12 survey, which asks 12 simple but powerful questions that get to the heart of how your staff is feeling. Questions like, do you have materials you need to do your job well? Do you feel appreciated at work? These questions aren't just aren't for feel-good purposes. They're diagnostic tools. They reveal where cracks are forming in your team before they turn into serious issues. And when your staff feels heard and supported, that positive energy flows directly to your guests. So let me just repeat this because it's critical. Feedback isn't just about hearing what you're doing right. It's about learning what you're doing wrong. Without a feedback system, you're only seeing what's on the surface. You're only seeing with rose-colored glasses. You're only seeing what you want to see. So you don't know what's driving your guests away, and you don't know what's frustrating your team. And if you don't know, you cannot fix it. And if you can't fix it, then it's going to be too late. So if you're not actively gathering feedback, you're setting yourself up for failure. Many unhappy guests don't complain to you directly. They simply leave and never come back. Worse, they go online, they write a bad review, and never come back. The same goes for your staff. Disengaged employees won't always tell you they're unhappy. Instead, they'll underperform or quit, which has a cost of its own. And by the time you realize what's happening, the damage is done. So behavioral economics teaches us that people want to feel heard. It's a fundamental part of human nature. If your guests and staff feel like their opinions matter, they're more likely to stay engaged. But if they feel ignored, they'll disengage. And that disengagement leads to everything from poor service to damaging reviews. The solution is quite simple. Ask for feedback. Act on it. Watch your business and use this information to watch your business grow. So feedback is your most powerful tool for improvement. It's not just about checking a box. It's about creating a continuous loop of learning and growth. And here's the key. Feedback isn't something that you gather once. It's something that you collect constantly. If you're not making feedback a regular part of your operations, you're letting problems grow in the dark. So loyalty systems bring your guests in, feedback systems show you how to improve, but there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to discuss, and that is your reputation. So in today's world, your reputation doesn't live inside the restaurant. It lives online, far, far, far away. And if you're not managing it proactively, you're leaving your business vulnerable to the whims of one bad review. Now let's talk about how to protect and manage your most valuable asset, your reputation. Your reputation isn't just what your guests experience inside of your restaurant. It lives online. It's public. And once something goes wrong, there's no hiding from it. Here's a staggering fact. 90% of consumers check reviews before visiting a restaurant. 90%. So they're not going to check your Instagram. They're going to check your reviews. So the question is do you control your reputation or does it control you? In the past, your reputation lived inside your restaurant between you, your staff, and your guests. But now every single interaction is out there on Front Street. Every meal, every review is broadcasted to the world, and people believe what they read online, especially when it's coming from other diners. So if you are not proactively managing your reputation, it's like playing Russian roulette with your business. So here's the thing: you might think, I run a great restaurant, I don't need to worry about reviews, but that's exactly where the danger is. That comfort zone, that smug understanding that you think you know what's going on, is exactly where the danger is. That's why bars go out of business. So even if you're not delivering even if you're delivering the best dining experience, one small mistake, one unhappy customer can turn into a damaging review online, and that review can hurt far more than you realize. If you're not paying attention to your reputation, you're leaving it in the hands of everyone but yourself. So Robert Cialdini, he's one of the founders of behavioral economics. He explains to us why people buy things. He talks about what authority and scarcity as key drivers of influence. So people trust those who have authority, and they're drawn to things that seem limited or highly valued by others. When your restaurant has a strong reputation, the one that you actively manage, it builds a sense of authority. It tells people this is a place worth going to. And when people see that your restaurant is consistently well reviewed, it becomes scarce, something special that they need to experience. Again, let's talk about Chili's, because they do it right. So take Chili's, for example. They don't just wait for reviews to show up online. They take action before anything becomes public, right? So this is rigging the game 101. Rigging the game 101. So after every meal, they gather feedback from guests and immediately address any concerns. If someone had a bad experience, Chili's doesn't wait for it to turn into a scathing Yelp review. They handle it right away. And their staff are empowered to make decisions to that effect. So they also actively encourage happy guests to leave positive reviews, ensuring that their online presence reflects their best work. The results? They're not just putting out fires, they're shaping their reputation from the inside out. Now, you might be thinking, that's Chili's. They have the resources to do that. How can I, as an independent restaurant, possibly manage my reputation like that? And the short answer is AI and automation. But here's the truth. You don't need a massive team or a budget to manage the reputation. What you need is a system that is readily available on the marketplace today. A reputation management system is about being proactive. It's about checking in with your guests immediately after the experience to see if something went wrong and fixing it before it goes public. It's about encouraging your loyal, satisfied guests to leave positive reviews to drown out any negativity. And most importantly, it's about showing that you care. This is what builds trust. That's what builds authority. So let me be very clear. One bad review left unaddressed can cost you far more than if you lost customers. A single negative review can snowball into a reputation that you cannot shake off. The scariest part, you might not even know that it's happening. So without a reputation management system, you have no way of knowing how people are talking about your restaurant online. Remember, 90% of consumers check reviews before deciding where to eat. If the first thing they see is a one-star review about slow service or bad food, it's not going to matter if the rest of the reviews are glowing. One bad review is all they need to make their decision. Crazy, right? Scary. So here's the secret. Reputation isn't something that you react to. It's something that you manage. It's proactive. And the best way to manage it is by catching potential issues before they become public. That's where your feedback system comes into play again. By asking your feedback right after your guest experience, you can identify problems early. But more importantly, you can resolve them privately, ensuring that they don't turn into public complaints. And here's another pro tip. Just don't wait for people to leave a review. Actively encourage a loyal guest, those who are consistently have great experiences, to leave positive reviews. Just ask them for an honest review. Don't ask for a positive review, just ask them for an honest review. If they already love your restaurant, they'll be happy to do it. This simple act builds a wall of positive reviews that not only boosts your reputation, but also buffers against the occasional bad review that might slip through. Another little pro tip here is that you can have a little widget on your website that shows all of your positive reviews. So if they actually make it to your website, you can show all the positive reviews. Another crazy pro tip is that you can automate how you automate your positive reviews as posts on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and your Google business page, right? So you can just post your positive reviews as content. So let me say this again. Your reputation is your most valuable asset. If you take nothing else away from this conversation, then just remember that your reputation is your most valuable asset. You can't afford to leave it to chance. Without a system in place to monitor and manage what people are saying about your restaurant, you're letting your reputation be shaped by forces that you cannot control. But with a system, you take back that control. You decide how your restaurant is seen by the world. So reputation management is more than just responding to reviews. It's about shaping the narrative before the narrative shapes you. It's about taking control of the conversation around your restaurant and ensuring that when people search for you online, what they find are rave reviews from happy customers, not those one-off complaints that could cost you your next 100 diners. Yes, 100 diners. So we've talked about loyalty, building lasting relationships with your guests. We talked about feedback, seeing your blind spots, and improving before it's too late. And we've talked about reputation, protecting the most valuable asset your business has. Now let's bring this all together and talk about what your next step should be to implement these systems and ensure that your restaurant doesn't survive, but thrive. So we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about loyalty. Let's break it down one more time. Loyalty isn't just about hoping people come back. It's about creating a system that makes them feel valued and seen. It's about engineering relationships so your guests don't just visit, they feel connected to the restaurant. And they return because they feel that connection. Without that system, you're leaving their return to chance. Then there's feedback. Feedback is your lifeline. It's the mirror that shows you where your strengths are and, more importantly, where your weaknesses lie. Without a structured way to gather feedback from both your guests and your staff, you're left in the dark. You won't know what's broken until it's too late. And finally, reputation. Your reputation isn't just what your guests experience in your restaurant, it's what the entire world sees online. A single bad review, if left unaddressed, can cause a ripple effect that drives potential guests away before they even give you a chance. Managing your reputation isn't optional, it's 100% critical. So I know that some of you might be feeling a little anxious right now. Maybe you're thinking that thinking about the gaps in your systems, the things that you haven't been addressing, the reviews that you haven't responded to, the feedback that you've ignored. That fear is frankly good. It means that you're aware. But here's the thing. Fear doesn't have to paralyze you. Fear can push you to act. And maybe some of you are angry. Angry because you didn't know this sooner, or angry because you realize you've been leaving too much chance. Use that anger to fuel the changes that you need to make, because here's the truth. The difference between restaurants that make it and those that don't is action. It's those that stop relying on luck and start using systems to create certainty. But for some of you, there's another feeling starting to build. And hopefully this is you, but it's ambition. Ambition not just to survive, but to thrive, but to build something lasting, something that your staff can rely on, that your community can rely on, to create a restaurant that not only attracts guests, but keeps them coming back. A restaurant that's not vulnerable to a bad review or inconsistent service or staff turnover. A restaurant that's driven by systems that make it resilient, flexible, and built for the long haul. So here's the challenge. What's your next move? Because restaurants that succeed are the ones that take action. It's easy to walk away from this and think, I'll get to that later. But the truth is, later doesn't come. Later means never. So what you do today, right now, is what determines the future of your restaurant. Are you going to leave it to chance? Or are you going to take control? Are you going to implement the systems that ensure loyalty, gather the feedback that helps you improve, and manage your reputation like the asset it is? So the systems that we're talking about today aren't just for the Applebee's and Chili's of the world. They're for anyone who wants to succeed. Anybody who's got their life savings on the line, that wants to not give that up, that wants to pay your family back, that wants to pay your investors back. They're for anybody who wants to succeed. They're for independent restaurants who want to build deep relationships with their guests, that want to grow, and that want to stand the test of time. It's not about size. It's about strategy. So my final challenge to you is this: don't wait. Leave your success. Don't leave your successes to chance. Start putting these systems in place today. And for those of you who are ambitious, who are ready to take the next step but aren't sure where to start, here's a path forward. I've helped restaurants like yours implement these systems, and I can help you do it too. Because when you take control, you're no longer part of the 60% in the first year that fail. You become part of the small percentage that thrives. The ones who succeed, the ones who win. So ask yourself, what's my next move? Will I leave it to chance? or where you take action, build the systems, and ensure your restaurant not only survives but thrives. I'm Jason Littrell. See you next time.